In this video, after the positioning skill for picking up the M has been created, we're going to go into the actual training and the mechanics of how to train a positioning skill. There are two types of skills in Mirai: motion skills for complex movements and positioning skills for just going in a straight line towards a target. And that's what we're going to use for picking up the M. We're also going to talk about golden rule number 2, which states that all kinds of variants that the robot might encounter while making its movement, while performing the skill, need to be shown during training. That could be colors or positions, slight changes in shape or lighting. And we're going to cover this in this video. Training of a positioning skill happens in episodes. Episodes are configurations of the task that the robot might encounter while it's performing the skill. I am now going to add an episode to the M picking skill, and for doing that, I click on Add Episode. I'll use manual position. I don't want to go to the reference position, and I'm going to calibrate the force torque sensor. This is going to happen a lot during training. The important thing about it is keep your hands off the robot while you're hitting the calibrate force torque sensor, and also make sure that the robot isn't touching anything, so there's no force between the robot and the world while you're saying calibrate force torque sensor. Otherwise, you'll get a bad calibration. Okay, so I am now going to move the robot to the target position. That's where I want the movement that the robot is making when performing the skill to end. It should be just above the M in this case, so we can ensure that the robot can go in a straight line to this position from essentially any position that's above the M. So this is where we want the robot to end up. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start recording the episode. So I'm clicking Start Recording, and now I'm essentially showing the robot around, right? So I'm just, for about a minute, I am showing to the robot how the scene looks. It's watching with its camera, and this way it will know how to find its way from any of these positions that I'm going through and all positions in between, and the target position. If I forget where the target position is, I can always let go, and the robot will go back to the target position. It's good practice to move in a gentle spiral, like doing this. It's also fairly important to have the highest density of positions that you're recording very close to the target. This is the important part, because if there's, in the movement that the robot is going to make later, there's a slight uncertainty up here, it doesn't matter. But here is where you'll need the precision. Make sure to combine all the degrees of freedom that you've configured, like in this case, the Z rotation and the 3 translatory dimensions. And in the end, I can always let go and then say, stop recording. This was a good one. I didn't bump into anything. I didn't do anything obviously stupid, so I'm going to use this for training. We've recorded a first episode. It was about a minute of data that we gave the robot to learn from. And as golden rule number 2 says, all the variants that the robot's supposed to deal with needs to be shown. I have only shown the M picking task in one position. Now the M picking task doesn't have a lot of variants, but position variants it has. So the holes in the table aren't going to be in the same place towards the M all the time. So I'm going to create some positional variants and add another episode and show the robot how to deal with that. Again, calibrate force torque sensor, hands off as you press the button, otherwise you'll get a drifting robot. Again, I am going to position the robot just above the M, where I want the skill to end up. So this is my target. Again, I have all the time in the world to make this precise. The precision matters here. And I'm going to go to Start Recording, and remember, show the robot around, but record most data around the target position, because that's what really matters. That's where you will want the precision to be. That's where you want most data to learn from in the end. Combine the dimensions, go left and do a bit of crisscrossing. Go straight, do a bit of crisscrossing. Go right and do a bit of crisscrossing. Now we should have shown everything. Can let go, still the target. Stop recording, be happy with the training, and use. Golden rule number 2, you need to show all the variants that the robot could encounter while performing the skill. And that could be all sorts of things. You could be in a place in a factory where the light varies, so you should record a couple of episodes with different lighting. You could handle an object that looks slightly different every time, so you should record a couple of episodes with the different shapes. The object could be in different positions. That, again, would require a couple of episodes. And you should also combine these types of variants in individual episodes. It's also good practice to not record one type of variants with a very long episode. It's good to just have a bunch of short, maybe 20-second episodes that show all different types and combinations of variants that you might encounter. It's important to visit all degrees of freedom in combination that have been configured in each episode. So for instance, if you have configured 4 degrees of freedom, like it has been done in the case of the M-picking task, where you have the translatory dimensions and 1 rotation. One way of making sure we visit all combination of these degrees of freedom is to keep 1 fixed, for instance, the rotation, and then showing the robot all the combinations of the other dimensions, and then rotate a bit, and again, then just translate. And then again, as you're recording the episode, it's important to do this for every episode, so you get like the combination of all degrees of freedoms and all the types of variants that you want to show. On the question of how much data is actually needed to get a good skill, it really depends on the complexity of what you're trying to do. If you have a skill that is fairly simple, which means there's not a lot of variance, right? This is just position variance. The light is always the same. The color is consistent. The shape is consistent. So we have like a low variance skill here. The lower bounds of number of episodes that you need to do is 5. So after 5 episodes for the M-picking task, you can actually send the data to the cloud, do a first iteration, and see how good the skill came out. If you have many dimensions of variance that you need to combine, record more episodes, your chances of getting a good skill back are much higher if you actually show all the combinations of variance that you're encountering.